Hi guys, welcome to Weather Lessons Day 2. I'm meteorologist Alexandra Cranford coming to you from my home in New Orleans instead of the usual studio location where we would normally be. I'm in self-quarantine and I know a lot of you are stuck at home. So if you are a kid, a student, welcome. We're going to have a really fun time today talking about clouds. If you're an adult, also welcome. I have a little experiment going, so if you have a few minutes and you are a grown-up, feel free to join me with my experiment and stay tuned, especially later as we are going to be getting into some really cool topics about beautiful clouds. And again, if you're a student, welcome. Just like yesterday, we had our first weather lessons topic and we talked about atmospheric optics. So all those beautiful things like rainbows and fog bows and dew bows and halos and coronas and things like that. So if you were with me yesterday, then thank you for joining me, and we're going to get into another topic that I happen to love because I love especially beautiful, wonderful kinds of weather. And today we're talking about clouds. So beautiful, right? I think there was a point in my life where I didn't notice clouds very much, but needless to say, as I got into weather and am now a meteorologist, I look at clouds all the time, and maybe you will too, especially after this little lesson. So what we're going to do today, and I have to admit, I am pretty proud of this, we are going to cover these topics. Check it out, guys. Remember my list was backwards yesterday? If you had told me a while ago, years ago, that one of my jobs as a meteorologist would be to learn how to write backward for a mirror image on a selfie video from home, I don't know if I would have believed you, but I learned how to write backwards. So number one, what we're going to do today is talk about how clouds form. So we'll kind of touch on that quickly, and then we will do an experiment. We will make a cloud. So as I told you yesterday, and you may have seen me post about this, we need two things for a little experiment that we're going to do. Number one is a water bottle. And notice there's just a little bit of water droplet action going on in here. I really just put in a tiny bit of water and then I kind of just shook it out. So a clear plastic water bottle, and then just make sure it has a few of these water droplets kind of stuck to the side. The second thing we will need is a match. So if you are a kid, make sure you have a parent help you with this. We're just going to light a match really fast and then we'll blow it out. So it's not going to be a long time. We're not lighting anything on fire or anything like that. After that, we're going to talk about the four main cloud types, which some of you, especially if you're a little more advanced, may already know. And then my favorite, we're going to talk about cool clouds. And I got some pretty cool pictures to show you guys of that. Can you believe I learned to write backwards? Okay, thanks. All right, so we're gonna start with how clouds form. So the first thing that you need to think about, of course, that we need to think about when we think about clouds is, of course, they're made up of droplets of water and sometimes of ice crystals. So what we need for a cloud to come together, and what we will see when we start our cloud experiment in which we're going to be making a cloud, we need to get all those water droplets together to kind of congregate and aggregate. And by the way, you guys did a great job of typing in and letting me know where you were watching from. Please do that again. I'd love to see where you guys are, whether you're in New Orleans, if you're on the North Shore, if you're in other parts of Louisiana, out of state. Go ahead, if you have access to the keyboard, just write in where you're watching from. I would love to see where you guys all are. I am in New Orleans. Okay, so we need the cloud droplets to come together to make a cloud. But they won't really just come together on their own. They need something. Lafayette, Baton Rouge, hey guys, Irish Channel, great, nice, I'm seeing these pop up. Knoxville, Tennessee, great, so much fun. Okay, hope you guys, I've seen some funny comments here. Hope you guys are ready to get into this cloud lesson with me. So we need all the cloud droplets, or we need the water droplets to all come together. So that has to happen on something. So the atmosphere is full not only of water vapor and different forms of water, but also of these very convenient little pieces of stuff. And that is the material on which we will see condensation happen to form a cloud. So what are we talking about? Little bits of stuff. We're talking about things like, perhaps you can think of some of them, dust, little bits of dirt or soil being blown about by the wind, little bits of ice even in some cases, and what we are going to use today to make our cloud, little particles and bits of smoke. So these are the kind of things that we need to get the water droplets to all kind of get together and condense. And so the name for those little bits of stuff in the atmosphere is cloud condensation nuclei. So we're talking about cloud condensation nuclei today. Very quickly, before we make our own cloud condensation nuclei with our experiment, you need not only that, but you also need the right temperature for condensation to happen. So of course, as a meteorologist, you knew there was going to be some little curveball there, and this has to do with what we talk about a lot in New Orleans. So cool, lots of people, the Philippines, the Bahamas, hello, Colorado, nice to see you guys. Thank you for joining me. So we need the right condensation nuclei, first of all, and then we also need the right temperature. So in Louisiana, where we are, it is so hot and humid a lot of the time. We talk a lot about not only humidity, but our measure of humidity called dew point. And so actually it's really nice to be able to have this format to talk to you guys about dew point, because sometimes it can be really hard to get information in a short weathercast on the news. So dew point temperature is really the temperature at which the air is saturated with water, and it really just can't hold any more in the gaseous form. It needs to condense. So when we reach the dew point temperature, that's where you see condensation, or the movement from a gaseous to a liquid. Usually that happens high up in the sky, which is why we normally see clouds, those cloud droplets forming far above our heads. But especially students and kids, can you guys think of a situation in which the clouds are not forming high up, but they're forming where we are? Of course, that would be, if you think about it for a second, fog. So that is the situation where our dew point temperature is matching the temperature that we are having at the surface where we live on the surface of the earth. And when those two meet, it means that the air can't hold any more water. It has to condense, the water has to go somewhere, and it creates the droplets that form a cloud on the ground, and that would be fog. Again, most of the time this happens far up. It happens far up in the atmosphere, and sometimes it happens with fog at the surface. Someone's saying they feel silly for watching this when you're 22. Come on, 22-year-olds, watch with me. Yeah, no big deal. We're gonna make a fun little experiment, and then seriously, even for adults, in a bit, I'm gonna show you some of my favorite types of clouds, which I just love to think about at my age as well. So now we're going to get into the two things we know. We know that we have, first of all, cloud condensation nuclei that we need, and then we also need the right temperature. So for our experiment, are you ready to go? Here we go. Let me show off my backward writing skills again. Oops, this is the wrong one, because we're going on to number 2. We've talked about how clouds form. Now we're moving to making a cloud. So what we're going to do here is take our bottle, which has a few little droplets of water in it, you can see, and then we're going to take our match. And I think I can do this. Normally when I go to schools and I do this, I have a little helper who usually holds the bottle for me, but I think I can do it by myself. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the bottle and turn it upside down. Oh, a few water droplets came out there. That's fine. We're going to hold it upside down. We're going to light the match. We're going to blow it out, and then just hold it underneath the opening of the bottle. Just hold it like this. And what we're going to see, by that point, the match will be out, and just the smoke is going to rise into the bottle. When that happens, we'll leave it there for a few seconds, and then we're going to screw the bottle cap back on. So, hope you guys were following that. And here we go. I'm going to light my match. And again, if you're a kid, get your parent or guardian to help you with this. Now I'm going to blow it out and make sure that all the smoke goes into the bottle. And so now that it's in, I'm going to tighten the cap on it. So, did you guys get that? Light the match, blow it out, get the smoke in here, and then just put the bottle back on. So what this is, essentially, is a little simulation of the Earth's atmosphere. You can see that there's water in there in the form sometimes of rain, sometimes of clouds, sometimes water vapor. And now we've added not only the water, but we've also added cloud condensation nuclei. We added the smoke particles. So what we're going to do now is just kind of squeeze it a little bit. Just kind of, you can hear it kind of crinkling, just kind of do this kind of thing for just a few seconds. Make sure the cap is on. And just kind of squeeze everything in there. Make sure it's all getting nice and mixed up. Cloud condensation nuclei, aka smoke, plus our water, and we've got it all kind of nicely mixed. So now that we have this, I think we're going to be able to make our cloud. So everything is mixed up. When we take the top off, I'm going to just kind of squeeze the bottle a little bit, and we should be able to see a really cool little thing form, which we will call our own personal cloud. Are you all ready? Can you all see that? Okay, it's going okay. Hopefully you were able to see it. It was a little bit faint. But if you're doing this by yourself, you can open your bottle, squeeze it, and see, look at this. A little bit more showing up, coming out. So I hope that helped you guys, especially all my student friends and kid friends, remember what you need to have a cloud. So it's a little bit crazy because all of these cloud particles form on these tiny little specks. So the water droplets that come together to create a cloud droplet could be 100 times or more bigger than the little condensation nuclei, the little piece of dust or the little piece of sand or the little bit of smoke that's there. But kind of interesting. Next time you look at a cloud and you see all this like beautiful action and color and light happening, think about each of those droplets having a tiny, tiny little piece of something in there, whether it's smoke or dust or a little ice crystal or something like that. So we have done our first two. We have talked about how clouds form and we have made a cloud. Now what we're going to talk about briefly is the 4 cloud types, and then stay tuned because my favorite is coming last, which is cool clouds. So for the 4 cloud types, I made another backwards sheet of paper with writing on it, guys. Again, wait, is this right? This. Yeah, there we go. All right, we got it. The 4 cloud types: cirroform, cumuloform, stratoform, and nimboform. So these are the 4 main types of clouds. So many of you may already know about some of this. And especially more advanced students or adults probably have a grasp of these, and then keep watching because then we'll talk about some different ones. So first we have our cirroform clouds. So these are, and again I'm showing pictures from this great book, Weather by Storm Dunlop. These are these beautiful clouds, the kind of high wispy clouds that we see, and these form very high up in the atmosphere. They're wispy, they're high ups where it's very cold, and they are made mainly of ice crystals. So this is the first type. These can be seen often on a really pretty day. I'm seeing your comments. On a pretty day, they can be often very good weather kind of clouds, and we see them actually, I've seen them a lot in the winter in South Louisiana. So this is a time where we do see these kind of clouds. Moving pretty quickly through these, the next type, is this right? Yes, cumuloform is next. So let me show you some of those. These are very pretty kind of cotton ball type clouds. Have you guys seen those kind of clouds? And I think I have some pictures of that just to give you a quick idea. These are the kind of wispy sort of clouds that we see kind of forming like cotton balls. Do I not have my photo up? And they are your typical like cotton ball clouds. So here we go, sorry. These would be our cumuloform clouds. What these really indicate when you see these, and we see these all the time in South Louisiana, is that there is lift in the atmosphere. So you can see that something is kind of driving this water up, and then it's continuing to move up. So you can see it may start down here, and then these clouds are moving vertically and creating kind of taller sort of cloud tops. The next type is stratus. So these would be the low kind of clouds, sort of blanket-like in appearance. Can you guys see that? These are pictures of stratus or stratiform clouds. These are the kind of clouds you would see when it's overcast, kind of on a gray sky sort of day. They're very uniform usually, and it just looks like a big kind of blanket of cloud cover. So that would be your stratus clouds. And then the final form is nimboform clouds, and that is really having to do mainly with rain. So these are the kind of clouds that we would get with thunderstorms and things like that. And it also produces the tallest in height cloud types, the nimboform clouds. So those are the 4 main cloud types. And so now if you go outside and you see pretty beautiful wispy clouds, you would say that is probably a cirrus cloud or a cirriform cloud. Those can also be called mare's tails, by the way. I like to ride horses sometimes, or I have in the past, and so that would be like a horse's tail, kind of beautiful wispy kind of shape. So these are the main 4 types. Now what we're going to talk about is the cool cloud. So I'm so excited about this because this is one of the things that I love to think about as a meteorologist. Yeah, is that correct? This is wrong, right? This is correct. Such an odd skill that I've picked up doing this. So, cool clouds. We're going to talk about lenticular clouds, mammatus clouds, cumulonimbus clouds, altocumulus, and noctilucent clouds. So we will touch on those very quickly with each of these. So we will start with, okay, my favorite cloud type, and that is lenticular clouds. When I show kids this picture at schools, they all go, whoa! And here are pictures of lenticular clouds. So I love these clouds. They're called lenticular because they look sort of like a lens, and obviously they also look like a UFO. And these form especially downwind of hills or mountains. So these, I have seen them twice in my life, I think. They don't really form that much in South Louisiana, but they do form especially around mountain ranges or hills. And it happens when the wind moves across a mountain range and it sets up waves. They can also be called wave clouds, almost like ripples in water. So if there's enough moisture, they form the waves kind of in layers, one on top of the other, and you end up getting this beautiful shape, these lenticular clouds. Again, I think my favorite type of cloud. The next type of cloud is mammatus clouds, and these are really pretty too. They have a very distinctive look, and you can see them here. At first glance, they may just look kind of like kind of storm clouds, but these are a particular type of clouds that form these kind of pouches, notice hanging down instead of moving up like a typical cumulus cloud. So that's the kind of marker of a mammatus cloud. They can accompany stormy weather, and they can sometimes form on the underside of cumulonimbus clouds. And it happens when the air in a cloud is quickly descending or moving downward, and that's what's creating the bulges. So when you do have that mechanism in the clouds, sometimes, you know, it's kind of pushing down and creating these bulges at the bottom. So sometimes that can indicate a strong thunderstorm, or, you know, something where potentially there could be some strong to maybe severe weather, such as hail, or sometimes you can see mammatus clouds with tornadic storms that eventually produce tornadoes. So those are mammatus clouds. The next type of cloud is cumulonimbus. So a lot of you probably know about this, but I did want to talk about this because we deal with these a lot in the summer in Louisiana, and when we have strong thunderstorm clouds, and often they're flattened out at the top in an anvil shape. That shape that you see at the top, that's kind of the marker of a cumulonimbus cloud. And now we will talk about Altocumulus clouds, which are really pretty and kind of special sort of clouds. These are clouds that we do often see in Louisiana. And a lot of times actually people will send in pictures of altocumulus clouds and they'll say, woo, what's going on with the sky today? This is really pretty. And often the answer is, oh, those are altocumulus clouds. So this is kind of the idea with altocumulus, and you've probably seen this before. This is when you have this pretty sort of grid or very kind of laid out sort of geometric pattern of clouds. So these are made of water droplets. They're in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. Sometimes these can be especially beautiful, like around sunrise, or if you do happen to see them around sunset. So if you do see this pattern, and I used to have that as the background, I think, of my Facebook page. I saw a beautiful sky with altocumulus clouds one day. That's what that is. It's altocumulus clouds. So again, this is a type that we get sent in photos of a lot. And so if you do, by the way, ever see beautiful clouds, we like to see them. So remember to either text it to WWL, or you can send it to our social media or eyewitness at WWLTV.com. And we would love to probably share it and sometimes put it in our weathercasts. Okay, and the final cloud type, the cool cloud type, and then we're going to finish up, is something called noctilucent clouds. So I really like this cloud type. I have never seen this kind of cloud, but they're really cool, and they are kind of like glowing or illuminated sort of clouds. You have to go really far toward the poles to see these, either very far north at northern latitudes or southern latitudes. And they're kind of silvery white. Sometimes they're even slightly iridescent and have a little bit of a glow to them. These are very high in the atmosphere, and they happen especially around midnight or so in summer months. And these are made of ice particles, of course, because they're so high up, and they are special because here's what's making them kind of glow like that. They are being illuminated from sunlight that's below the horizon, while where the observer is standing, it's dark. So it's a dark night, it's around midnight, and the sun is not far behind the horizon though, and it is shooting light on these clouds and producing this beautiful kind of glowy effect. So these are noctilucent clouds. Again, I have never seen that kind of cloud, but I would love to. That would be really fun if I went way up to the north or I guess to the South Pole. Maybe you could see them there too. So you guys, these are my cool cloud types. Yeah, all right, backwards writing, working out this time. Lenticular, we talked about that. That was the UFO ones. Mammatus, those were the ones that hang down and are associated with stormy kind of weather. Cumulonimbus, those are your storm clouds. Altocumulus is that pretty pattern that I bet you're gonna see if you start looking at the sky, and many of you have already seen it and already know about that, but that is the kind of pretty patterned effect, kind of like a grid. And then we just talked about noctilucent clouds. And if I can show off one more time my backward writing skills, we did all of this today. Talked about how clouds form. Remember, you need the right temperature, as well as, students maybe can fill in the blank here, cloud condensation nuclei. We made a cloud using smoke as the cloud condensation nuclei. We talked about the 4 main types of clouds, and then we just talked about special, cool, fun clouds. So that will do it for this weather lesson number 2. Thank you guys so much for joining me. We are going to have more of these, by the way. I believe the next one is going to be next week, but stay tuned, check my Facebook and our Twitter and WWL's Twitter and so forth, because we may do one a little bit earlier, possibly. But the next topic is going to be, I think, meteors and fireballs and cool things like that that you can see in the night sky. So we'll kind of shift gears a little bit from beautiful weather like we talked about yesterday with atmospheric optics to cool clouds like we talked about today, and we will talk a little bit about that sort of astronomy type stuff, I think, in our next weather lesson. So that will do it for now. Thank you so much for joining me from my house as I am still in self-quarantine and many of you are still at home. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you guys on our next weather lesson video. It will be at 1 p.m. when it is coming up. Thank you guys also for your comments. I love to see them, and I do read them, by the way, as they're popping up, and I like to see where you guys are from, and that'll do it for today. Thanks again, and take care.